Okay, so this one is an audio recording of the day I went and got the GPS on. This takes place in Todd Cantamessa's little office off to the side of the U.S. probation. You're going to hear my attorney speaking, Kurt Hermanson, the world's worst attorney. You're going to hear me say, they've had my birth certificate since pretrial services. You're going to hear the argument that ensues. The other voice is going to be that of Todd the Fraud Cantamessa. Again, here's an auto recording of me rehashing with them the fact that they've known who I am all the way since pretrial services. So what Todd Cantamessa does just the other day, a few days ago, is unconscionable. It's inexcusable. It's nothing more than further evidence of him being a criminal. Point blank, period. That man is a crook and a criminal and guilty of perjury, among other things. Listen to this. I would like to think that all got consolidated when you took over my case because she screwed it up. I'd like to think that's what happened. Is it not what happened? So she did not pass along the file to you? You're saying Lisa Brown got this? Lisa Brown, Brandy Morrison at the time, her name was Morrison, Danielle Desnoy, each one of those POs professed to want to help me with that and said they would. I provided them. Each one said, this is very complicated. I'll have to look into it. End of story. Nobody ever looked into it or helped me. Secondly, why do you think his office never once held me accountable for not having a job, despite it being a general condition? Because it would have required those deadbeat POs to get off their ass and go get me my ID, and they never did. See, now you can see, after listening to that recorded conversation, that's Todd Cantamessa saying, I don't have a certified copy. I just have a text. You see how quickly I jumped all over him? I said, when you took over my file for Danielle Desnoy making this epic criminal action that caused you, the supervisor, who doesn't have clients, to take over my case so you can manage it and keep your eyes on it, knowing the time bomb, knowing the explosivity of what happened, you elect to take it on instead of report it to the AO's office and get away from it completely with the clear conflict that exists between me and your office having filed a report against you with the police. No, he doesn't do that. That would have been the correct thing. He manages it himself, and then I confront him. I say, Todd, don't you have the file that Danielle possessed? Wouldn't that be what happens? Aren't all these things consolidated? Aren't they all a part of the record, the actual singular record that exists in regards to my file in your office? Isn't that how it works? He says, yes. This man is nothing but a con artist. Let me tell you something. I've been around a lot of con artists, lots of them, really talented ones, very talented ones. Lawyers, Joel Steiner, Steven Steiner, these guys, billion-dollar fraudsters, you know, other major fraud cases out of South Florida, the capital fraud cases. I've been around big-time con artists. This guy ranks among them. When I tell you he's a bullshitter, he's a Class A bullshitter. Todd Cantamessa is. That's why I call him Todd the Fraud. Okay? You just heard him. Look at the date on that auto recording. It says Fed Building. See that? See the length of the conversation, people? See those other ones that say an hour and 32 minutes? 37 minutes? Those are just current ones I got on this phone just to make recordings of in case the other phones happen to fail, that I redundantly record them on every time I encounter them. So, when I tell you for a fact he knew who I was, and you hear me acknowledging and getting right on his ass immediately when he tried to play stupid, oh, I just had it in a text message. Come on, not gonna fly here, bud. Not gonna fly. You're not dealing with some schmuck junkie who doesn't know how to comprehend some bullshit when he hears it, okay? You are guilty. That comment alone is nothing more than him demonstrating his culpability in this whole thing. The fact that he tries to say, I just have it in a text, okay? You hear Kurt say, hey, I'd love for him to have a letter with U.S. probation letterhead, United States District Court letterhead, saying that he is, in fact, Michael Joseph Reason. Okay? Now, here's the interesting point. This is the craziest part of this whole thing. What does Todd the Fraud say? So now that you heard Kurt Hermanson say, hey, I would love to have this guy have a letter, you know, in his correct name. I'd love to have him have a letter from the U.S. courts saying that he is, in fact, Michael Joseph Reason. That's my true name. So what does Todd the Fraud say? Well, I don't have his birth certificate. I don't have to pull this out because you guys are a smart audience, but when you heard me jump all over him and say, no, you have an official PDF copy that goes all the way back to pretrial services. Look at the date. This is 3 years ago, people. So, again, Todd the Fraud, because Todd is a fraud, okay? He's trying to expect us to believe that he doesn't have access to the file when he took the entire thing over. And furthermore, when you heard me claim earlier that he gave me veto power over my probation officer and permitted me in unprecedented way to say, no, I don't want her for a probation officer because she's a criminal, that confirms that as well. That is me telling him right to his face that's what happened. He does not say, no, what are you talking about, sir? That's ludicrous. That's absolutely crazy. No, he just rolls with it because he knows it's true. Again, I don't have a copy of it. I just have a text message. Yo, you have that as well, but you definitely have this too. See, the problem with liars is they can't keep their shit together. Bottom line. When you're lying and you're bullshitting as often as that guy does, it's impossible to keep it straight. But you also have that, Todd. That doesn't work for you, Todd? The fraud? Todd the fraud. Let me ask you directly. Does that work for you? That's the United States courts, Todd the fraud. The people that you so easily fraud every day. That ought to cover it, right? It's on every single page of my judgment, Todd the fraud. How do you escape that reality? You can't. You're guilty, point blank. But this document here is, and that statement he makes, just makes it oh too clear that this is actually a guy who deserves the title Todd the fraud. My attorney, again, says to him, I would love to have my client have a name on U.S. court letterhead that reflects his true name. What does Todd the fraud say? Well, I don't have his birth certificate. I would have to get some documentation of that. That's funny, Todd the fraud. Did you have Dan Melindo's birth certificate before you did that? Hello? Explain that. Busted. Game over. Busted. Todd the fraud is Todd the fraud. They don't have Dan Melindo's birth certificate. They never have had his birth certificate. They've never had even his ID. Nothing. Yet, what did they do? They cut me an ID, swearing to its authenticity on what? U.S. District Court letterhead. I scratched the man's social security number out, but I assure you that has his social security number with my address. Wow. You really need the birth certificate, huh, Todd? You care to provide the courts or anybody who inquires, hopefully the AO's investigator, as to how that happened? How you single-handedly caused the entire world to doubt that letterhead forever on because of this? Now, do you see the part here where it says SID, Oregon SID? Do you see that right there where I scratched that out? That's more blatant and overwhelming evidence that they did this on purpose. This is a blank template. They have to fill in the information on the template. These don't come with my face on it with Dan Melindo's information. You know what I'm saying? So when they put the Oregon SID number, which is a SID number for those who don't understand what that means, is it's akin to an FBI number. It basically is a number associated with a particular individual's fingerprints and their criminal record within the state of Oregon. That SID number is 130-96387 that I crossed out. That is the SID number to Michael Joseph Reason. So whoever says they didn't fill this in, I assure you, there is never a situation on the planet Earth with that SID number, that name, and that social security number, except for right here. This is the only place that exists simultaneously within the same document. Their stolen identity of Dan Melindo for the purpose of violating me, whereas they waited, you heard me tell them, you waited 8 months to violate me. You waited 8 months. You hear him argue that? No, he didn't. You hear me point out that under statute, he has an obligation to tell the courts in a timely manner, report such a violation, a Class B violation, which means any violation that would yield the defendant a greater sentence than a year, any new charge in the state courts that would yield you a sentence greater than a county year is a Class B violation. One more example of why he needs to wear handcuffs. Point blank. I've knocked this thing out of the park, people. I've knocked it out of the park. This shit, if it were in the Bay Area, this would be out in the water. A guy in a canoe would be grabbing a ball and it'd have Todd Cantamesa's head on it. That's how bad I knocked this out of the park. Okay? So, AO's office, do your thing. United States Attorney's Office, ball's in your court. That ball I knocked out of the park with Todd's head on it, that's on your desk right now. It's called perjury indictment. Do your job. Don't do your job. I will personally see to this video and all the documentation, all those hours of recorded calls, and trust me, when I tell you there's more, my God, is there more. I just don't have the time to make these videos 6 hours long. There's that much recordings. I'm talking to a federal officer right now. Arrest me if I'm lying. There's 6 hours of recordings on that topic alone. Do you understand what I'm saying to you people? That man's a criminal. Do your job. If the AUSA doesn't want to act upon this, all of this is going to the Office of Professional Responsibility, and they're going to act on it, I assure you, because if not, I'm going to make a video on them. Point blank. This shit ain't going away. What he did to that petition for summons is a crime, and it adds to the proof of what he did in the first place being a crime. I'm going to settle down and like get my blood pressure going. But people, this is ugly. This is the kind of thing that gets that courthouse surrounded with lawful and nonviolent protest because it's racist behavior, it's racially driven. Show me a white person these people have done this to. Todd Cantamessa is an epic racist person, point blank. No other way to explain that, okay? I can demonstrate far worse things than even this if you stick with this channel. Watch these videos, people. Watch every one of these videos. I know I'm slow at posting them, but you gotta understand, this is not my day job. I'm not a YouTuber. The GPS unit that he got put on me caused me to lose the tip of my finger on a table saw. What I do is I make custom furniture and things of that line. Woodworking type of stuff, believe it or not. So, again, his GPS unit that's bulging off the side of my ankle caused me to lose my balance. The GPS unit that he illegally had put on me by means of this fraud. Watch the video. I knocked that out of the park. Okay? Illegal. So to wrap this up, what happens? Todd Cantamessa, aware of this YouTube channel, sees the evidence I presented about his guilt, about his culpability with regards to perjury. Instead of, hey, let me turn myself in because I'm an honorable person, what our guy Todd the Fraud does is he goes and gets a petition for summons from 14 months ago. Molests it entirely on the face of it. Takes out, tries to edit it for all his perjury, remove his perjury, and then claim in nothing more than just an act of stupidity that's on a scale that's so epic, I can't even put it in terms verbally, okay? This buffoon goes and puts on the face of the amended petition of summons, it's to update the court. It's so the court can have additional, newly developed information and reflect the accuracy of the situation. In other words, trying to con the court into, or the record that we just determined these things, and so it's appropriate for us to now update the petition. I think I've demonstrated that prior to that petition, Todd the Fraud knew all of that and way more. So again, what Todd did was give the AUSA a walk in the park conviction for perjury. I'm talking about, you got no chance, don't hire a lawyer, it's a waste of money, use the public defender, I'm sure Kurt Hermanson's available, okay? Listen. You're an epic moron, Cantamessa. I cannot believe what you've done. All you did was give him the biggest piece of evidence he could possibly ever want. Changing the original petition for summons, are you a fool? It just confirms his entire story. His entire story has just been confirmed by you by changing it. 14 months after the fact, you idiot. You can't change a petition for summons. I'm going to get 10 counts of perjury over this. Maybe 12. I count 12. And to think you're so stupid that during the meeting in which you're discussing the police report he filed on Danielle Designoy for stealing the identity of Dan Melindo, of all things, you're going to hand him a summons that has the name Dan Melindo on it. Your stupidity knows no bounds. You are a detriment to yourself and to this office. Pack your desk, you dumb jackass. And to think you're so stupid that during the meeting in which you're discussing the police report he filed on Danielle Designoy for stealing the identity of Dan Malindo, of all things, you're going to hand him a summons that has the name Dan Malindo on it. Your stupidity knows no bounds. You are a detriment to yourself and to this office. Pack your desk, you dumb jackass.